Hey everybody, welcome back to Life with Type 1 Diabetes. It's Kara. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Today, I am finally at a place where I can come to you guys and talk to you about the Autosoft 90 infusion sets with Tandem T-Slim X2 insulin pump system and what may or may not be in it and how that may or may not affect us as insulin pump users. So this guy, for those of you that don't know, is what we're going to be talking about today. This is the pink color of the Autosoft 90, if I can open it, and it's already been used. So this is the needle, and this is what it looks like. And so this little inner circle around here is where the tubing is and where the adhesive piece is and where the cannula sticks. And so the needle obviously is where the cannula gets ejected from, and then you put it on your body wherever you are choosing to. So the reason why I said last time that when I was going to talk about Autosoft 90 and 30, that it might be scary is because it has been suggested that Autosoft 90 and Autosoft 30 have been made with Teflon. And as you saw in the thumbnail, I tried to do some research about what is actually in the Autosoft 90, how damaging is it actually to us, and whether or not it would make a difference in the long term to the health of our bodies by continuing to use Autosoft 90 infusion sets. And honestly, I couldn't hardly find one thing. I looked everywhere. I looked on the tandemdiabetes.com site. I looked on Google. I tried to find the actual manufacturer for Autosoft and see if I could find anything on there. And I really could not find anything. But I learned about this in June, actually, of this year. I went to a camp for adults living with type 1 diabetes. It's called Connected in Motion, and it is a nonprofit organization that is running in Canada, has been out east for a number of years, been out west now for a number of years, and is now going into the United States. So it is happening in Georgia, or just has happened in Georgia, and it happened in Colorado and in Maine earlier this year. So we were at this camp, and this is the first time I'd gone, and we were around the campfire one night, and we were talking about all the different kinds of infusion sets and adhesive bindings that get used for how well people can receive them and wear them, and if they have to do multiple daily injections instead because they can't wear these. And then all of a sudden, I forget who, but somebody brought it up, that Autosoft 90s might have Teflon in it, and it can stay in our systems for 10, 20 plus years, and that could be damaging to us. And so I tried to figure out if I could find an actual evidentiary-based anything to confirm or deny these claims, and I couldn't find anything. However, I did look, and we have all these Tefal frying pans and other things that we use on a regular basis that probably is equally or more damaging to us than using these. And I even talked to one of the Tandem reps, happened to be there, and she actually lives with type 1 diabetes herself. And I said to her, would this cause any serious damage if we use these? Should we only use the True Steel, which is the metal-based cannula, instead? And she had no answer to whether or not this is something that we should stray away from and only use True Steel, or if we can just use them at our own risk type idea. And so I really don't know how damaging these are. I have still been using them because for me, although it is scary and it may be impacting me in some way, to be honest, there's a lot of things that impact our life for the negative or for the positive. It doesn't really matter what way we look at it. Having a can of pop or soda, or being in the sun for too long, or having fast food, like all these different things impact our lives. And so we're using a Teflon based frying pan, like microwaving your food, like there's so many things that can or cannot impact our lives, and understanding what that looks like and sifting through all the information for yourself and deciding whether or not you only want to use True Steel, or you're okay with using some Autosoft and some True Steel, which is what I do. I use a little bit of both, is completely up to you and how much you want to sift through that and filter through it and try to figure out if this scares you enough that you absolutely want to stay away from it. I've talked to a few people from that camp since then, and some people like just don't know, and they're like, I don't know, there's not enough research. And that's kind of where I am. I'm just like, I'm finding it hard to find hard facts around whether or not this is true, and if it is true, what I should do about it. And for me, the reason why I use both the Autosoft 90, I don't use the Autosoft 30 because it's an angled cannula. I only use Autosoft 90 because it's not, and True Steel, is because I myself, having previously, when I first started on insulin, had to be multiple daily injections, have some scar tissue in my abdomen. And so I can't solely use my abdomen for stuff. I have to use other parts of my body, like other real estate I can find wherever I find it. And so with that, like in my arms or my thighs or my love handles, I find Autosoft 90 works the best. And I haven't tried True Steel there, and I probably could. But at the same time, I know for me what works and what doesn't. And so for me personally, it scares me a little bit in both directions. And what I mean by that is it scares me a little bit that there's a possibility that there's Teflon in here and that I'm harming myself when I use it to get my insulin. But then I'm afraid that because I would use a metal cannula, it would hurt too much because it's very specific where you can put them, and you need more subcutaneous fat around it to be able to use it. Like, and there's all these things, right? So it's really, really hard to figure out exactly what is going to work for you and how it's going to be and all this sort of stuff. But this was the first time in like 10 years that I had ever heard the query or conspiracy theory, whatever you want to call it, that there may be Teflon in Autosoft 90s, which I'm assuming if you had ever been on the Animus pump would have been the same thing with the Inset 2s. Like, I don't know if it was the same, but it is a little bit scary. But at the same time, it's kind of one of those, you either go with it and you just kind of talk to your team about it and you try to figure out if there's something that you want to continue with, or you solely go to True Steel or to the metal-based cannula, whatever it is for Medtronic, or like, you know what I mean? There are so many different ways to look at this that it is really difficult to try to ascertain for you personally what you feel comfortable with and what you feel will help you in the long run. And so, I felt like I should chat about this because I'd seen so many things like online, and especially on some of the Facebook groups and things like that, of just people freaking out a little bit. And, everyone can, have their own opinion about what they think is good and what's not good and whatever. But like, I couldn't find anything anywhere. Now, having said that, maybe I'm in Canada, so it might not be super accessible to me to find all the different things that are in America versus Canada. I don't really know, to be perfectly honest, but what I do know is that it's just hard either way we look at this with diabetes. You have all these different things that we have to use, and we just have to kind of take it as it comes. And whether or not there's intentionality behind engineering these products with Teflon or not is up for debate, I think. I mean, I've not met anybody who said anything different, and I've never interviewed anybody or anything like that, so I don't really know what the actual answer is. All I know is this, is there is a possibility that there's a small amount of Teflon in the Autosoft 90s, and there is a possibility that it could be in my system for a long time. What I do know is that when I talked to my rep at the conference, I said to her, well, would this be something that if somebody wanted to get pregnant, would that affect their journey? And she herself has had children living with diabetes, and she's been on a number of different pumps, and I bet you some of those had Teflon in them when she was pregnant with her children, and she was perfectly fine and super successful on her pregnancy journeys. So I would imagine it's not as bad as we think it is. We just hear information in a certain way, and then we kind of get scared because it's the way it's presented to us in. And I think in this day and age, with everything that's been going around with like coronavirus and all these different things and how things are being manufactured and made and whatever, that it kind of scares us into different things, and or we just don't have the information that we actually need to help us make some of these decisions. And I think with diabetes, it's like we can only look so far, we can only talk to people so far that know what's up and how things are happening in real time, if that makes sense at all. So I think that with Autosoft 90 infusion sets and Autosoft 30s, or like the very soft, like all the ones that have the adhesive base with the plastic cannula, because that's what we're talking about. It's the plastic cannula that is encased over top of the metal cannula is where some of it is, because that's the plastic portion. So like right here, so there's a plastic cannula that's put right over top of that when you cock it back and it ejects is where the Teflon supposedly is. And because this stays in our system for 3 days, some people are just really concerned, and I get that. I had a meltdown a little bit. I was trying to be composed when I was having this meltdown at this camp, but I was just freaking out because there was a bunch of things going through my head of like, what if this, what if that, what if whatever. And I just, you have to take these sorts of pieces of information with grains of salt, and until you have enough evidence or facts that you can sift through or you can talk to someone about, there's really not a lot of point in freaking out. I mean, to be honest, in this day and age, we have the most information at our fingertips that we've ever had in history. And so the fact that like we can ask somebody about this, or it just shows up on social media, is crazy, because that's not a thing that's really ever happened before. And so now when things are being speculated, it gets spread very quickly, and then all of a sudden you're now dealing with, oh crap, what if this is actually a thing? And we just won't really know until we find the person in that chain of command, if you will, that can tell us if this is good, if this is not good, and kind of how it's made, and like all this stuff. Like it takes a long time to sift through all that information to actually find out what is or isn't true, what is or isn't legitimate and whether or not we should be super afraid and turn the other way. So I don't know. I mean, I'm still using these because of the convenience factor. I might at some point switch to TrueSteel only, but for now I'm still using Autosoft 90 and the TrueSteel infusion sets, and for me personally that's working great. I still sometimes in the back of my mind have this gnawing feeling, oh, I don't know if I should do this, but it's convenience. And like I said before, we live in a world where so many things can be harming us to one degree or another that it's really difficult to know like where to stop 100%. Like, no, I'm gonna stop here, or I'm not gonna do this, or like, you know, like you could go down a freaking rabbit hole with that, right? Like it's not super cut and dry anymore. I mean, it's never really been, but especially now it's so challenging to work through all those things. You just go with what you have at that time, right? And so I think that all I'm trying to say is that I'm bringing this information to you from what I've seen, from what I've heard, what I've tried to research myself. Like I say, I didn't really get anywhere super far with it. But it is each person to themselves as far as what they're comfortable with the infusion sets and the therapy that they choose to use. If it's pump therapy and trying to figure out if you're only going to use one type of infusion set or another, or if you're just going to stop pump therapy altogether because it scares you and you'd rather go back to multiple daily injections, that's 100% on you and your team. So take this with a grain of salt. Know that there is very limited information, at least for what I could find. And I spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out what exactly is happening and kind of how and whatever. And so part of that is why it took forever. The other part of why it took forever for me to get this video up was just trying to find a good place to film. And it just took a bit. But I'm here now, and I will definitely be trying to be more proactive in how I do this. And I know I've said that more than once, but in my current situation where I live and things like that, trying to film is a bit difficult at times because my husband works from home. And so trying to find something to where I can do it and not disrupt him can be the challenge that I'm dealing with. But I think I'm going to end today's video here. I hope you guys will have a wonderful weekend. I'm going to try and get this up tonight or tomorrow, which is Saturday, September 9th at the latest. And I hope if you guys are wearing a continuous glucose monitor, Dexcom G6 or 7, or a flash glucose monitor, Freestyle Libre 1 or 2, that you guys have straight CGM lines, and your blood sugars don't give you too much of a challenge over the weekend. And I hope you guys have a great day. Don't forget to like this video on your way out and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.